All right, so it is time. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Rony Moyal. I'm the VP of Sales for Virtuozzo in the America. And with me today, I have Martin Robson, the CEO and founder of Robson Inc. Martin, you want to say a word or two?
Yeah, sure. I've been running Robson INC for about 22 years now. We've gone through sort of all the cycles of cloud dedicated managed hosting. We've been with all the other sort of hypervisors and worked with hyperscalers, and we've found, we're enjoying Virtuoso. So thanks, Ronnie, for inviting me. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think.
So Martin and Robson Inc. Had been a partner of ours for many years. They started with us as a private cloud or compute for private cloud provider. It means that they have their customers, they were deploying private cloud for them. When we came up with a compute as a service concept, which using our own components, our own payloads, our own infrastructure to create private clouds for customer, we came with a concept of some of our partners, some of our MSPs actually want to have compute as a service as alternative to hyperscalers, and we'll go over that in length. So we chose Robson to be our representative as far as our distributor for those services worldwide. On today's call, we will talk about the cloud business journey, the challenges, the lessons, and successes, and how it's relevant to MSPs around the world, to MSSPs, to system integrators around the world, how the cloud landscape has evolved, and what are the alternatives that we're giving to the likes of the hyperscalers as far as infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. And we will discuss the new regions that we're adding or the ability to add new regions in a very rapid way and per demand, per customers or per MSPs, wherever it is in the world. We will also do a live demo and we'll end up with a Q&A. If you have any questions, be ready and just ask them. We'll answer live. Any questions till now? Any concerns? Anything that we need to know before we start? You can raise your hand. You can ask verbally. Okay. Okay. So who is Virtuozzo? So Virtuozzo, we are a European company. We are headquartered in Switzerland. We've been around for many, many years. We've been around since actually 24 years, but almost 2001, kind of the end of 2001, we started as a software-defined storage company. So we came with, we have a lot of patents around software-defined storage, to include S3, to include different representation of software-defined storage. And through demand from our customers, we added also the compute part. We had our own kernel. We had our own approach for containers. Actually, we were the first one to commercialize containers for hosters back at the time, to provide VPS services. So over the years, we were the leading provider of VPS enabling technology, or VPS for cloud service provider technologies. Customers like, and you can see here in the bottom, GoDaddy, InMotion, A2 Hosting, fairly much the largest hosters around the world used and are using our technology for their VPS environment. As the technology landscape have changed over the years, there was a demand to add more functionality that is not VPS related. With the introduction of Kubernetes, with the introduction of a GPU as a service and others, we came up with a new solution which we called VHI. VHI is an engine, a hypervisor that allows the combination of very efficient compute with software-defined storage, and fairly much gives a system integrators or a customer the ability to create their own infrastructure as service for their own usage, but also allow cloud service providers to stand up their cloud and to offer VM as a service or compute as a service, platform as a service, and we'll go over all of those. Most of our technology is ours, so we have 157 patents around software-defined storage and compute and how to do it in a very efficient way. most of the pressure that there is today on cloud service providers is how to be efficient, how to utilize the hardware that you have in the best way and to get the best density and the best resiliency in your cluster, so you can serve more customers, you can generate more revenue from those customers and provide them self-service portals and tools that they can self-manage. Okay, we are around the world, we are in 87 countries, so we have representation in 87 countries through customers and through personnel. And we're supporting close to 1 million payloads today in different data center, ours and customer data centers. And with that, I'm going to hand off to Martin to talk a little bit more about what makes Robson unique as our partner and how do they used to serve and how they serve today their customers for both compute as a service and private clouds where needed, and platform as a service where it's needed. Martin?
Yeah, thanks, Rony. One of the things that we've noticed with our MSP clients, and that's typically the space that we've operated in, is that as technology is changing, the need to sort of stop doing everything is getting pretty critical. And I know, we use Azure, AWS. We have some of our own infrastructure sometimes, and even client side. And as it's getting more complex, having to expand and scale that with the resources you're going to need is getting difficult. And we're finding our clients are saying Azure and some of the other providers, are expensive. They're unpredictable. And the reason why we partnered with Rony and Virtuozzo was because we felt through their solutions, we were able to provide an end-to-end solution from a compute cluster that we can do GPU, we can do shared GPU, we can do high performance virtual environments where the hardware is current, the hardware is now, the hardware is relevant. And then we can roll into larger enterprise solutions using VHI. So VHC for us is a great starting point to really evaluate how the Virtuozzo product is, how you can use it, test it, evaluate it, deploy small production workloads or large development environments. But as your business gets further along, we like the transition and see the transition going into more of a dedicated hardware space. We think infrastructure as a service is going to probably end up being more of a hardware term, as the virtualization environments end up being, sort of under capacity for doing what's going to happen when we get into like generative AI and some of the other stuff for clients that need, dedicated infrastructure. So we're absolutely in love with it. We think the pricing is far better than what's out there now. Reliability is greater. Just due to the sheer fact that the infrastructure we have is more reliable. I mean, that's from what we've experienced on the hardware side. So
Thank you, Martin. And again, the reason why we chose Robson Inc. Or Robson Communication is the fact that they have two hats. They know to serve their customers the best way depends on customer needs. And sometimes the customer will have two types of needs at the same time. So it could be that the customer, for some of their payloads, will need compute as a service. It means that they do not want to have hardware on-premise or hosted, managed by a partner, but for other payloads, they do need their private cloud. So through the combination of tools and solutions, we can provide through Robson and through MSPs, we can provide the tools to create the private cloud for the customer, the tools to create public cloud if you want to be cloud service providers, but also the already pre-baked compute as a service, platform as a service, if you choose to be subscribing your customers with ready-made solutions. And the focus of this session today is about our compute as a service platform and how it serves the MSPs or the IT ambassadors of a customer with tools that the customer needs. And we'll also talk about the benefits of why our solution is different from a slew of other compute as a service providers out there. Okay. So the majority of you on the call, and how many do we have today? I think we have about 25 participants, are technology providers, our IT as a service, our MSPs, our system integrators. You subscribe technology to your customer per their need. or per their future need. It means that if they want to deploy an ERP system, they have choice to put it on premise, they have a choice to put it in the cloud, and they have a choice to consume it as a service. You as an IT provider for the customer can choose the best path for this customer, and partnering with us, partnering with Robson, gives you the benefit and the flexibility to have different solutions for the different use cases. So why are you an MSP today? Most MSPs that we interviewed, and we interviewed hundreds of them, and actually in my past, I came from Acronis, where we had about 3,000-4,000 MSPs around the world. What defines an MSP is somebody that has a lot of IT curiosity, want to utilize technologies to the best of their customer needs, wants to do it in an efficient way, but also want to make sure that they're making money in the way. So we all very much like our customers, but we also want to make sure that something pays salaries and our customers are getting served, but also in the process of providing efficient, cost-efficient, and service-efficient solution to the customer, we also get compensated. And this is exactly the platform that we created, that we give you alternative to hyperscalers and not cost-effective compute as a service. But we also not forgetting about you as the partner. We're making sure that there is a revenue sharing that is way more significant than other service providers. And we are cheaper than most of other service providers. So the benefit to you as an MSP is twice. You have reliable, or three times. You have a reliable solution that you can rely on to provide services to your customer. You making money in the process, and you actually own the customer. So the customer, it's not on board the customer on a third-party system, and there's no ownership or transparency into the customer. You have transparency into the customer. You have full ownership on the customer, and you're making money in the process. Any questions till now? Okay. With providing infrastructure as service, we also thought about, okay, what is the next stage for services that you want to provide your customers? So some of your customers will not need a virtual machine, or the type of a solution that they'll need is not just VM or set of VMs. They will need an application. They will need a database. They will need WordPress. So another offering that we have in our solution is exactly that. It's different approach to compute as a service. We look at that as the payload as a service. What do you need? You need a database? Not a problem. Click on this button. It will send the database per the requirements of the database, instead of you figuring out, okay, I need to subscribe 5 VMs. I need to have them in certain characteristics, and then deploy the payload. We took the approach of, we're giving you the first option, but we also giving you a cookbook of recipes for more than 100 different popular payloads, all the way from ERP as a service to CRM as a service to many, many other tools that you can choose from. Okay. So the relationship that are usually, or the triangle of relationship that is usually between the MSP, the cloud provider, or the technology provider, and the client is as such that in most cases, when you subscribe technology to the customer, you matchmake the customer with the provider. In some cases, in most cases, you lose the ownership of the customer, and you're not seeing benefit from this transaction. What we've done, and I'm repeating myself a little bit, but the MSP is in the middle. The MSP owns the relationship between the cloud provider and the client. The MSP is the one that has the revenue share and the technology ownership with the customer. So you're staying relevant for your customer. You're staying relevant by offering add-on services on top of the compute or platform as a service. You're staying relevant because the customer knows you and not the cloud provider. Okay, so what is in this platform? Aside from us showing you the platform itself, which we'll do next, our platform is a pay-as-you-go model. It means that you pay for services that either you consume or you consume on behalf of your customer. You're paying for what is consumed. So standing up a customer doesn't cost you anything. There's no minimal commitment. There is no subscription charges. If your customer is there and your customer have one VM and this VM runs instead of 720 or 730 hours a month, only half of it or only quarter of it, they pay for what they consume. So they consume compute, they consume storage, they consume public IPs. That's what they pay for, and they pay for the number of hours that those resources were running in a month. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, and it gives the customer a lot of flexibility to only pay for what they consume and to grow with our solution instead of spending OpEx on buying hardware, dealing with hardware obsolescence, dealing with hardware failures. It makes your life easy. As an MSP, it makes it very easy. You subscribe into the solution, they pay for what they consume, and that's it. Easy to maintain because there's really no maintenance that is done as an MSP for the customer. It's just making sure that the customer is, if they're not using VMs, they're turning them off if they don't want to pay extra. But again, full flexibility. And with that, we give you, again, full platform with all the services in it, and the ability to grow the add-on services that you provide to the customers. What is offered as part of our portfolio for compute as a service? And again, a lot of those that are offered here are also offered as licenses for you to create private cloud for the customer. So Kubernetes as a service, database as a service, WordPress as a service, all of those can be offered to the customer as a service from our solution, but also as an ISO that you install on dedicated hardware for them to use it from their own environment. And of course, the buckets of infrastructure as a service and platform as a service have the VMs, have all of those scripts, cookbooks for those different applications. Okay. We are growing. The last data center that we created is in Vancouver, Canada. That was done with Robson as our chosen partner for that. We can replicate this growth very quickly. So if you as an MSP show us that there is a potential in the market, or show us a need in the market that you operate in, and you tell us that I can forecast so many VMs or so many resources that are needed, we can build a data center, or we can build a subset of a data center in a location as fast as 2 weeks to a month. And I'll let Martin talk a little bit more about that in a second. So the latest one that was built is in Vancouver, Canada. It took us about a month to stand it up, all the way from getting the IP addresses that are Canadian IP addresses, to getting the location, to getting the hardware, to installing the marketplace, and also, of course, infrastructure as service and platform as service. So we can do it rapidly. And Martin, from your perspective, what is kind of the vision of where you see that there is a need for it to expand to?
Yeah, I think North America, I mean, as you can see on the map, is sort of underserviced. And I think it speaks to Virtuozzo and, where the focus has been and where the success has been, and it's a proven model. So, in North America, Vancouver is set up. You guys can go there now, utilize it. I hope you guys kick the tires and see what it can do. Q2, we're looking at doing Montreal for a coast-to-coast solution for redundancy if you want to keep your data in Canada. But we also see needs in the US and Sao Paulo. To speak to the deployment process, through our partnerships, and we use Equinix internationally for our data center. We don't build data centers as much as it sounded. But having had done this for as long as we have, we think we found sort of the gaps and ways to support MSPs to, not just provide the added services, but provide a reliable solution that you could take existing clients and existing services and stuff you're already doing, and start migrating them to another platform to evaluate and see how it goes. The migration to the Virtuozzo infrastructure from anything else is super easy. That's something we can help you with, and I know Ronnie's team can also help you with. And yeah, I mean, it's easy. I mean, let us know where you want one. Let us know how you want it set up, and we can take care of it, like Ronnie said, and we can do it fairly efficiently. And on the other side, to talk about a hybrid solution on the dedicated, if you guys said, hey, you know what, I want dedicated hardware in Montreal because I need a hybrid solution between, the VHC compute and what's happening, but maybe a dedicated solution. We're able to deploy dedicated hardware in conjunction with everything that we have stored and the deployments we have for VHC data centers. So think of those as, inflection points of doing more as you need it for expansion in a hybrid solution that may include, other hypervisors, your client, yourself, and Virtuozzo through VHC.
Okay, good. Anybody have any idea where they want to see a compute as a service location or data center location? You can put it in the chat, and we can also do a poll. It's interesting for us to see where we need to grow into, because again, we are doing it per demand. We're not building them and they come. We just relying on you as our MSPs, as our ambassador between us and the customer to let us know where our service is needed. So let me just open the chat here and see if we have any nominations here. I don't have any nominations yet. Okay. Yeah, so if you have any recommendation, we can do it also offline later on. Just tell us where you see a need and how we can help you create a data center there that can serve your needs. Okay. And with that, and with no further questions, and if there are, let me know, we would move to the actual demo of the solution. Here you see all the existing payloads for you as an MSP. You can also see down here the clients that you have. So you can add clients, you can manage clients, you can actually log in on behalf of a client. You can subscribe new components to a customer. You can onboard a customer as well. So if you have a need to onboard a customer, all you need to do is to go and provide them a trial link or a production link. This will register this client under you, or you can do it on their behalf, of course. And you can provide or not provide the customer to their login panel so they can log in on their own. A customer can load their own logo and can create their own look and feel, or you can do it for them. So the system does allow you to white label it per customer and also per MSP. So we talked about dashboard that shows me, again, my own usage, and this is demo system, so pricing shows 0. But in general, you will see pricing, you will see the different payloads that you have. Those payloads can be either infrastructure as service or platform as a service in case that you have platform as a service. When I want to add another IaaS location, I can add an IaaS location as a trial. I can add an IaaS location as a project or not trial. And this will add it under me as the MSP. Same for platform as a service. You can add platform as a service locations. You can log into the control panel, and that will allow you to maintain or manage your payloads, database service, CRM as service, and so on and so forth. We also took out of the platform as a service, we took out database and Kubernetes and WordPress, so you can have easy access. Of course, you can go directly to the platform as a service and do it from there. So this is single sign-on to the platform as a service, where you can manage your deployments and your deployment, your customer deployments, and so on. So here we can see that in this particular demo environment, I have a backup storage for the benefit, let's say, of Acronis or others. So I can stand up storage, register the storage to a backup provider, and use that as a repository for my customers' backup. I can see DevOps as a service. I can see those two. I can see Joomla and so on. If we go to the marketplace, or where we see all the different applications or the cookbooks, you can see that there's about 105 of them that can do different things for the benefit of the customer or the benefit of the MSP standing up services for the customer. This solution can be a multi-region. It means that, let's say if it's WordPress and you want this WordPress to have one leg or one representation of the service at the customer cloud, but as a backup or as a geo redundancy location or geo or local access in Azure or AWS, you can do that as well. So some of those scripts can have a multi-location applications or payloads. Okay, so this is the platform as a service. As I mentioned, the solution have a full self-service for a customer. So if I'm a customer and I want to log into my environment, I want to log in as behalf of the customer. I would just log in from here and manage my own payload. So right now I'm seeing the environment on behalf of the customer. And with that, this customer specifically doesn't have any payloads. But in general, I can log into the customer, I can manage their payloads, I can subscribe new solution for these customers. And as I mentioned, also get to their self-service portal itself. And why is it not letting me? Just a second. I can do it from here. So I'll go and manage this payload. Here I can see the single sign-on. I can also see the admin for this customer and their password if need to, and I can see metrics that are relevant for the customer for their usage of the customer. If I'm logging into their panel, I will see their tools or the tools that I can extend to them to manage their own environment. Okay, so this was the password for the customer. It's already cached here. And from here, this customer is seeing their own usage. So they can see CPU, RAM, floating IP, and also how many vCPUs are consumed per each of the VMs that the customer is having, how much RAM is consumed. And this is real-time information. So we charge per hour. It means that over the month, we will accumulate the amount of CPU hours, the amount of RAM hours, storage, and so on. And from that, we will create an invoice or usage information for the customer. Okay. In this section, the customer can actually create new VMs, manage existing VM, back up those VMs, restore them, and so on. To create a VM, it's a very simple process. You go create a VM, you give it whatever name you want. So VM 15, for example. You can load this VM from an image or from a volume. If it's an image, it's one of those pre-baked images, and you can load your own images, or your customer can load their own images. So if you have your own supply agreement with Microsoft, you can bring your own image and not pay Windows licensing to us, but have it going on your own supply. The rest is trivial list of or more popular list of operating systems from our view. But again, you can load your own solutions as needed. So if I took just the first one in the list, Alma Linux, it already know that Alma Linux needs a 10 gigabytes. So it already kind of predefine a volume for me. I can go and change this volume to be larger, smaller, usually larger if I need to. So I can make it, let's say I need 100 gigabytes for this image, and I want to use different storage level of service. So if it's standard or high performance or low latency, medium latency, and so on. So once I've done that, it will let me request for storage. Exceeds. I have on every customer we can set up a quota. So in this case, the quota on this customer is not allowing to exceed the 100 gigabyte, and by doing so, I was exceeding it. So here we have the volume for the customer. We can add more volume if need to. we can select the flavor. It means what is the combination of resources that I want to allocate for this VM. So here we can see 32 vCores and 128 gigabyte of RAM. So let's say that I selected that. Then I can specify the network interfaces. Each project which represents the customer is separated by its own VLAN. So there will be no one customer can see another customer, or no project under one customer can see another project. So this is good for security. It's also good for managing the throughput of the project under a customer. So network interfaces, SSH keys, and customization script, all of that can be loaded or defined to allow the creation of a VM. Once we have a VM, we can also go and create a VPN for the environment. A VPN in the environment, compared to other environments, it's not consuming system resources, as far as you don't need to stand up a VM and put pfSense on it to create an IPsec VPN. Here you can create the IPsec VPN directly from the interface, decide what are the IPsec policies that you want, and you have a VPN to the environment. Same for management of IPs. You can go add a public IP to the environment that will allow you to, for this VM or this project, to be connected from the outside. Security group is a filtering engine that allows you to block and open certain ports on certain payloads. And we have load balancer, where if you have more than one VM, you can have those two VMs in different distribution algorithms, round robin and other, to allow, let's say, if you have a web server, to allow failover or to allow load balancing between the two. Okay, so those are the balancing pools. You can select, what is the balancing pool, what are the distribution algorithm or balancing algorithm, and so on. Any questions so far?
I was going to mention something, Ronnie, and I think it's important for the the engineers, or the people that need to make sure that the virtual environment hits the performance projections they need. And one of the things that isn't thought about as much as I think it should is, what are the physical resources that the virtual resources are being deployed on? For example, I could take my PC that's sitting here, a media server, and I could say, oh, look, there's 20 vCPU on it, and I got 64 gigs of VRAM, but the underlying architecture it's built on isn't what you would expect to give you the performance you need. So just remember that any virtual environment is dependent on the hardware below it for performance. And if you find that it's slow, increasing resources typically won't solve it. So if you're at a resource point, you're like, this makes sense, I like it, and you're like, wait, it was working over here better, but here it's just not quite, hitting the mark. Don't default by adding resources. Although I would appreciate it, we would appreciate it. Of course, we make more money with it, but the truth of it is you really want to make sure that the provider you're using, the hardware, how it's running, and you know what you're getting. The other really important piece to ask is, what's the oversubscription, right? Any of these providers, a lot of them will increase density by just massive oversubscribing environments, which also affects performance. So you may be like, perfect hardware, everything's great, but they have like an 80-to-1 oversubscription, and they're just selling so much stuff on it, hoping no one uses it at the exact same time. These are two things we've purposefully made sure that we address and aren't taking advantage of clients or you, and you get the right service. So, if you need any questions or have any questions about it, feel free to ask me or Ronnie, but I'd love to get into it for sure. And
that's a great point, Martin, that you put. Our solution, VHI, which is the kind of the engine behind that environment, allows you to mix and match, allows you to create a different level of service per the needs of the customer. So assuming that you deploy a private cloud for the customer, you can create overcommit of 1 to 2 for some machines, overcommit of 1 to 4 to other machines, overcommit of 1 to 10 if you need low performance machines. So we are flexible this way. Each node in the VHI deployment can have its own overcommit ratios, which again gives you flexibility on how you deploy and how you utilize the hardware in your own compute as a service instance, or at the customer compute as a service instance. Okay, and as Martin was saying, it's very important to subscribe the right hardware. Sometimes customers will push for reduction in price by choosing lower quality hardware. It always comes to bite you at the end, because if you start from second tier or second generation, third generation hardware, the obsolescence on this hardware will be faster, and the all-in-all customer experience will not be as great. When we deploy a data center, and that's one of the many reasons why we choose Robson, Robson is always going or always deploying our data centers with the latest and greatest hardware, first tier hardware, first or immediate generation, whatever it is, ready to market hardware, which gives us flexibility in the ability to overcommit, gives us flexibility in extending the platform. Our solutions, VHI and others, are modular. So you can start a cloud deployment theoretically from one node. Typical production environments start from three hosts. The nominal is 5 hosts. These 5 hosts can do both software-defined storage, compute, the management. All of that can be done within those nodes. Again, as a production environment, all the way from 3 nodes, all of that can be done and maintained. You don't need external storage. You don't need to maintain external storage, but you can. If you choose, if your customer have already external storage and they want to utilize it, we can connect to it, or we can offer fully hyper-converged environment.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the hybrid solution is really, you know, the key to this, where you can have VHC, the VHI with what Ronnie's explaining, but you're able to do both at the same time. You can separate your workloads depending on what you need and the solution that your clients need. You know, having that full flexibility, I found, and our clients have found, is really, you know, what helps sort of keep everything you need in a platform that makes sense and your clients understand, right? If you're changing between different platforms for different solutions, it can get confusing. Those admin panels, I mean, even for me, I think I have like, you know, 20 of them open. You know, simplifying that makes business easier, saves time, and we appreciate it for sure.
Yep. And as we mentioned, your ability to support your customers relies on your ability to monetize the usage of those customers. So the system offers you full reporting capabilities. You can choose the time frame of the specific usage for you or for the customer and see exactly the amount of hours that each VM has consumed for whatever resources, if it's a CPU, if it's a RAM. So very easy for you to take this information, plug it into your billing system, and in some cases, we can extend our knowledge on how to use WHMCS or HostBill or other marketplace application to build even the invoicing capacity to those customers. And with that, we are about 50 minutes after the hour, and we'll open it for Q&A. I know that Victor was answering a lot of your questions on the fly, but if you want to ask any question verbally, please do. Okay, anybody? Just raise your hand and I'll just open the mic for you. I think we don't have questions. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Does it this session did it serve any of your concerns, any of your future needs, or it opened new ways for you to serve your customers? Okay, shall I pick somebody randomly? How about Grant? Grant, are you with us?
Rony, there is a question in the chat.
Okay.
What about how server S3 service?
How about what? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm not sure about this services.
Oh, yes, yes. So aside from IaaS and PaaS, we also have S3 as a service. So you can see here, this particular customer doesn't have their S3 enabled, but you can create S3 as a service, extend buckets to your customers where they can store their, whatever it is that they want to store. So they can extend. One of the use cases that we've seen is that, for example, Vim, if you guys are familiar with Vim, a backup solution, their storage, if you use their storage, it's very expensive. So some of Vim customers or MSPs are using our S3 as a destination for the backup of their customers. And if I'll show you VHI, you can see how S3 is used. Just a second. So here is a customer that I'm going to log into the domain. Customer can have many domains or many projects. In this case, we'll log into their demo domain. It's a demo account. So you can see that it's the same interface that you've seen before, but there is also another section here, which is S3. So this S3, the customer can see the buckets that they created. They can go into any of those buckets and see the files in the bucket. They can upload files. They can create access to this bucket. So if I want to access this bucket, this is the path or the URL for the bucket, and I can create access or the secret to access this bucket. Use CyberDuck or whatever you use on the other side as the tool to access this online file structure. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, there is another one about backup as a service and also disaster recovery solutions for cloud service providers.
Yep. So backup as a service is something that is included in some of the domains or in some of the data centers. We are expanding that since it's a inherited functionality of VHI, which is the engine behind our solution. You can see here backup plans. You can go and create a backup plan for your VMs. You give it a name. You give it what volumes you want to backup. What is the scheduling and retention policy for that? And what it will do, it will just go and save all the information about the VMs to an S3 storage. This S3 storage can be back in your own data center, but you can take this storage and geo-replicate it to some other location. I'll show you how it's done. Here. So in this, again, this is a demo environment. So if I go to storage services, my S3, where this backup is going to, can be geo-replicated to another location. So we have a customer that sits under this environment. Okay, so we have a customer. A customer is part of a project, part of a domain. That's kind of the what makes a customer a customer. And this customer can be extended S3 services for their own bucket usage. And this S3 can be geo-replicated to another solution, which we can stand. So it's another cluster somewhere else, again, for redundancy, that we can synchronize it to. So the other cluster can be just for S3 purposes or just for storage purposes, because as we mentioned, our solution is very dynamic. You can build a whole cluster to do compute and storage, or you can build a whole cluster to do just compute. You can do the whole cluster just to do S3. So a lot of flexibility, and S3 is just one of the things that you can expand on our software-defined storage. You can do block storage, you can do backup storage. Backup storage is something that you can tie in this example. You can tie it to Acronis, you can tie it to other locations, and that will serve your customers on Acronis, for example, as their destination for backup. Any other questions? All right, we have 5 minutes till the hour. If there are no more questions, I thank you guys all for joining us. We'll be more than happy to share more information to help you understand how licensing is done. Just reach to us. You will have the recording of the session. You will have a follow-up email. Reach to us. We will be more than happy to set time with you and to go over your needs and how we can help you.
Yeah, I also included my LinkedIn contact in the chat. So if you have any questions or follow-ups about hardware, infrastructure,
Yep.
you know, apps, happy to help.
We are, yeah, both us and Robson use us as a consultancy. Even if it's not for our products, we can help you figure out what is best for your customers.
If you want to bring any of your generative AI or other infrastructure questions, then we'll talk for a while because I love talking about the future of AI and infrastructure. So my personal plug.
Thank you.
All
Have a
right.
good rest of the day. Thank you, guys.